The council chamber was the largest room Ambassador Tae-woon Kim had ever seen. It floated in space above a planet called Zenthar Prime. 47 different alien species sat in circular rows, their seats arranged like a giant theater. Some had scales, some had feathers, and some looked like they were made of crystal. They all talked at once, arguing about trade routes and mining rights. Tae-woon stood at the speaker's platform in the center. He was 58 years old and had gray hair at his temples. He wore a simple dark suit. Behind him stood other human representatives, including Captain Hunyul Park and Dr. Yoon Seo Lee. They had come here today with hope. That hope was about to die. For 200 years, humans had been part of this council. They had built hospitals and fixed broken machines. They had grown food for hungry colonies and taught alien children in schools. They had protected trade ships from pirates and helped negotiate peace between fighting species. Humans worked hard, always believing that one day they would be treated as equals. Today was supposed to be that day. Tae-woon had presented their request. He had shown numbers and facts. Humans maintained 68% of the Council's technology. They provided 54% of scientific research. They performed 71% of humanitarian aid. But they had less than 8% voting power. Tae-woon had asked very politely for fair representation. The elder species had laughed. Councillor Vexthar, a tall reptilian with green scales, stood up. His voice was cold. Humans are young. You have only been in space for 300 years. We have civilizations that are 10,000 years old. You are useful workers, yes. You fix things well. But leadership? Representation? That is for species who have proven themselves over millennia, not centuries. Other councillors nodded. High Chancellor Mordax, who looked like a giant insect, clicked his mandibles in agreement. Your request is denied. You should be grateful we allow you to serve the council at all. Perhaps in another 1,000 years we will discuss this again. The chamber filled with the sounds of alien approval. They thought the matter was settled. They expected Tae-woon to bow and accept their decision, as he had done before when humans asked for less. But this time was different. Tae-woon stood very still. His face showed no anger, no sadness, nothing at all. He looked at each of the alien counselors one by one. Then he spoke. His voice was quiet but clear. We understand. You have made your position very clear. You see humans as tools, not as partners. We accept your judgment. He paused. Therefore, humanity will withdraw from all council activities effective immediately. For a moment, the chamber was silent. Then Vexthar laughed again. You think this is a negotiation? You cannot threaten us. Go ahead and withdraw. We will simply hire other species to do your work. Tae-woon bowed politely. This is not a threat. This is a farewell. He turned and walked toward the exit. Every human in the chamber stood and followed him. They moved in perfect order, their footsteps echoing in the sudden quiet. Captain Park waited until they were in the hallway. Sir, are we really doing this? Yes, Tae-woon said simply. Send the message. All humans, all stations, all facilities. Begin withdrawal immediately. Within 1 hour, human workers across the galaxy received their orders. In hospitals, human doctors finished their current surgeries and then packed their equipment. In space stations, human engineers saved their work and logged out of their systems. In schools, human teachers gave their students one last lesson and said goodbye. They took nothing that wasn't theirs. They broke nothing. They deleted their personal files and research notes. They left instruction manuals and technical documents, though no one had ever read them before. Everything was done properly, professionally, and politely. Engineer Bora Choi was the last human to leave the main power station. She was 32 years old and had maintained the station's reactor for 6 years. Before leaving, she left a detailed manual on the control panel. It explained everything someone would need to know. She wondered if anyone would read it. Probably not. The alien workers watched humans pack up and leave. At first, they were confused. Then they were amused. Look at them go, one said. They think we need them. Another laughed. Good riddance. Maybe now we can get some respect around here. But some aliens were not laughing. Counselor Thren was an older avian, covered in silver feathers. He had worked with humans for 30 years. He stood at a window and watched human ships leave the station. Something felt wrong. The humans were too calm, too organized, too final. That evening, the lights in the diplomatic quarters started flickering. It was a small thing. Maintenance would fix it. But when maintenance arrived, They discovered that the human technicians who usually handled electrical systems were gone. The aliens tried to fix it themselves. It took them 3 hours to do what would have taken a human 20 minutes. In the council chamber, High Chancellor Mordax felt pleased with himself. "We showed them their place," he told Vexthar. "They will come back in a few days begging to return. Then we can set proper terms." Vexthar agreed, but he felt a small doubt in his mind. The humans had not seemed upset or angry. They had seemed relieved, like people putting down a heavy burden they had carried too long. On the human ships heading home, people were quiet. Some cried. Some stared out windows at the stars. They had given 200 years to the council. They had believed in something bigger than themselves, and they had been told they were not good enough. Captain Park sat with Dr. Lee in the ship's common area. "Do you think we're doing the right thing?" she asked. Park looked tired. "I think we're doing the only thing we can. We cannot force them to respect us. We can only choose whether to accept disrespect." Dr. Lee nodded slowly. "They're going to have problems without us." "Yes," Park said. "They are." Back on the council station, more systems began to fail. The water recycling plant made a strange noise. The air filtration system showed warning lights. The communication array dropped 3 calls. These were all small problems. Individually, they meant nothing, but together they were the first signs of something much bigger. Something that would change everything. The humans were gone, and soon everyone would understand exactly what that meant. The first 3 days were quiet. The council members went about their business as usual. They attended meetings. They made speeches. They argued about laws and treaties. Everything seemed normal. On the 4th day, a medical emergency happened on Station 12. A worker from the Krell species had an accident. His biology was complex and he needed immediate surgery. The hospital staff prepared the operating room and called for the surgical team. That was when they realized the problem. The lead surgeon was human. So was the anesthesiologist, and the nurse who knew how to operate the advanced life support machines. They were all gone. The remaining doctors tried their best. They had alien doctors who were skilled, but the equipment was human-designed. The interfaces were programmed in human languages. The instruction manuals were written by human doctors. It took them 40 minutes to figure out how to turn on the surgical robot. By then, the worker had died. The same day, the translation system in the council chamber stopped working properly. Aliens spoke into their microphones, and the words came out wrong in other languages. A Vrax counselor said good morning, but it translated as "your mother is a rock," an insult that almost started a fight. The technicians checked the system. They found that humans had maintained and calibrated it every week for the past 100 years. The system was so complex that it needed constant adjustments. Without those adjustments, it drifted out of alignment. The technicians tried to fix it, but they didn't understand how it worked. "Where is the manual?" Someone asked. They found a manual. It was 2,000 pages long, written in technical human language with mathematical equations and diagrams. No one could understand it. Administrator Ji Wuhan had been the last human to leave the logistics department. She was 41 years old and had managed supply chains for 15 years. Before she left, she had sent one final message to all the suppliers and transport companies that worked with humans. The message was simple, all contracts ending immediately. "Thank you for your service." The effects of that message rippled across the galaxy like waves in water. Food shipments stopped arriving at Colony 17. The food had been stored in special containers that kept it fresh using human-designed stasis technology. Without human technicians to maintain the containers, the food started to spoil. 3,000 colonists faced hunger. Medical supplies failed to reach 4 different hospitals. The supplies needed to be kept at very specific temperatures. Human logistics teams had managed those temperature requirements. Without them, expensive medicines arrived ruined and useless. A cargo ship carrying valuable minerals got lost between star systems. For 20 years, human navigators had been quietly correcting navigation data to account for stellar drift. Without those corrections, navigation maps were slightly wrong. Slightly wrong in space meant being millions of miles off course. By the end of the first week, Counselor Thren started to worry seriously. He had seen patterns in his long life. He knew what small problems becoming big problems looked like. He requested a meeting with High Chancellor Mordax. "Chancellor, we need to discuss the human situation," Thren said. Mordax waved a claw dismissively. "What situation?" "A few technical difficulties." We will adapt. We managed before humans arrived. We will manage now. With respect, Chancellor, we did not have these systems before humans arrived. Humans built them. Humans maintained them. The galaxy is much more complex now than it was 300 years ago. Then we will hire other species to do the work, Mordax said. Thren felt frustration, but kept his voice calm. We tried. The Benatar engineers we hired to fix the power station took 12 hours to do basic maintenance. It usually took humans 2 hours, and they still couldn't fix the main problem. That got Mordax's attention. Why not? Because humans designed that power station. They built it to their specifications. They maintained it their way. No one else knows how it really works. Mordax was silent for a moment. Then he said, "Send a message to the humans. Tell them we are willing to discuss better payment for their services." The message was sent. 3 days later, a reply came back. It was from Captain Park, now commanding the Border Defense Fleet. The reply was polite but firm. "Humanity thanks the Council for its interest. However, we are no longer available for employment. We wish the Council success in its future endeavors." Mordax read the message 3 times. "This is ridiculous. They're playing games. They want more money." Thren shook his head. "I don't think so. I think they meant what they said. They're done with us." Meanwhile, other problems were emerging. 2 species that had been arguing over a trade route started yelling at each other in council meetings. Usually, human mediators would have calmed them down in private conversations. But there were no human mediators anymore. The argument turned into a fight. Ships were sent to the disputed zone. On Station 7, the water started tasting strange. The recycling system was malfunctioning. Engineer Borat Choi had maintained that system perfectly. The aliens trying to fix it now didn't understand the chemical processes involved. They made it worse instead of better. In the council chamber, the empty seats where humans used to sit remained empty. At first, other species had joked about taking those seats, but now no one touched them. The seats felt like a reminder of something everyone was starting to understand but didn't want to admit. Vexthar stood at a window, looking out at space. A young assistant approached him. "Counselor, the report you requested is ready," the assistant said, and the assistant hesitated.
"Sir, according to our analysis, humans were involved in maintaining or operating over 70% of council infrastructure."
They were doing it so efficiently that no one noticed how much they were actually doing. Vexthar turned slowly. 70%? Yes, sir. And that's just what we can measure. They were also involved in countless unofficial support roles. The number might be higher. For the first time, Vexthar felt something he rarely experienced. Fear. "How long until we can replace them?" he asked quietly. The assistant looked at the floor. "Our best estimate? 5 to 10 years, if we start training programs immediately, if nothing breaks catastrophically in the meantime." Vexthar looked back out the window. In the distance, he could see human ships at the border of human space. They weren't coming closer. They were just there, silent and watchful. The first week was over, and things were only going to get worse. 1 month after the humans left, everything started breaking at once. The quantum communication network failed completely. This network connected all council worlds, allowing instant messages across the galaxy. It needed precise calibration every 30 days. Human technicians had done this calibration for 150 years. Now the network was out of alignment. Messages took hours instead of seconds. Some messages never arrived at all. Counselor Zix, a being made of living crystal, tried to contact his homeworld. The message bounced around the broken network for 6 hours before finally getting through. By then, the emergency he was trying to report had gotten much worse. The emergency was a plague. It started on a mining colony, then spread to 3 nearby worlds. The disease was not new. Similar outbreaks had happened before, but they had always been contained quickly. Now people were dying. Dr. Yun Seo Lee had led the disease monitoring program. She and her team of human scientists had tracked 17 different potential diseases across council space. When they saw early signs of an outbreak, they would warn the local authorities and send medical teams. The system had worked perfectly for decades, but Dr. Lee was gone now. Her monitoring program was shut down. The warning systems were offline. No one had noticed the early signs of this plague. By the time anyone realized what was happening, thousands were already sick. The council tried to respond. They had medical facilities and supplies. But the facilities had been designed and operated by human medical teams. The equipment interfaces were in human languages. The treatment protocols were written by human doctors. The alien doctors tried to read the manuals and figure things out, but they were too slow. People died while doctors struggled to understand machines that humans had operated easily. At the same time, a different crisis emerged. Pirates had always been a problem in some areas of the galaxy. But for the past 20 years, pirate attacks had been rare. Everyone assumed this was because of better trade route security. The truth was different. Commander Insu Kang had led human security forces in covert operations. His teams had infiltrated pirate organizations, tracked their movements, and disrupted their operations before they could attack. They had done this quietly without seeking credit. Most council members never knew this work was happening. Commander Kang was gone now. His intelligence networks were dismantled. The pirate organizations quickly realized that no one was watching them anymore. Attacks increased dramatically. Merchant ships were robbed. Colonies were raided. Trade routes that had been safe for years became dangerous. Insurance companies raised their rates. Shipping costs increased. Some companies stopped operating certain routes completely. The economy began to suffer. Counselor Zix finally managed to arrange a meeting with the other senior counselors. They gathered in a small conference room instead of the main chamber. The main chamber's environmental systems were malfunctioning, making it uncomfortable for many species. "We need to contact the humans again," Zix said. "This situation is becoming critical." Bexthar shook his head. "They already refused. They made their position clear. Then we need to offer them better terms," Zix insisted. "Whatever they want. Equal representation. Higher pay. Better treatment. We need them back." High Chancellor Mordax looked older than he had a month ago. The stress was affecting him. "Send a delegation to human space. Offer them anything reasonable. But we must maintain some dignity. We cannot beg," Counselor Thren spoke quietly. "I think we are past the point where dignity matters, Chancellor." A delegation was prepared. Counselor Zix volunteered to lead it. 3 other counselors joined him. They took their best ship and traveled to the border of human space. Human border patrol ships intercepted them politely. They were escorted to a meeting facility on a human station. The facility was clean and functional, but not fancy. They waited in a conference room for an hour. Admiral Haniel Park entered. She had been promoted from captain to admiral. She sat down across from them and waited. Counselor Zix spoke first. "Admiral Park, thank you for meeting with us. We come to discuss the possibility of humans returning to council service." Park's expression did not change. "The council has made its decision regarding humanity's place. We have accepted that decision. The situation has changed," Zix said carefully. "We understand now that we underestimated human contributions. We are prepared to offer better terms. Equal voting rights, fair compensation, full partnership." Park was silent for a long moment. Then she stood up. From a drawer, she pulled out a data pad and placed it on the table. "This contains records of every request humans made to the Council over the past 50 years. Requests for better representation, requests for equal treatment, requests for partnership, all denied." She looked at each of the counselors. "You did not want partners. You wanted workers. Now you don't have workers anymore. That is your choice and you must live with it. But people are dying," one of the other counselors said desperately. "The plague, the pirates, the system's failures. We need help." Park's voice softened slightly, but her words were firm. "Then you will need to solve those problems yourselves. As you told us, you have civilizations 10,000 years old. Surely you can manage your own affairs." "This is revenge," Vexithar said angrily. "No," Park replied. "Revenge would be if we sabotaged your systems or attacked your people. We did neither. We simply left as was our right. We are not responsible for fixing problems we did not create." She walked to the door, then paused. "Ambassador Kim sends his regards. He is retired now, living peacefully on Earth. He asked me to tell you that humanity wishes the Council well. We hope you find the solutions you need, but you will find them without us." The meeting was over. The delegation returned to Council space with nothing. When they reported back to High Chancellor Mordax, he said nothing for a long time. Then he stood up and walked out of the room. No one saw him for 3 days. When he returned, he looked defeated. The message was clear. The humans were not coming back. The council was on its own. 3 months had passed. The council chamber station was being evacuated. The life support systems had become unreliable. Sometimes the air was too cold. Sometimes it was too warm. The oxygen levels fluctuated. The water tasted bad no matter what the technicians tried. Sections of the station had to be sealed off when environmental controls failed completely. The station was 300 years old. It had been designed by a team of many species working together. But for the past 200 years, humans had maintained it. They had upgraded systems. They had fixed problems. They had kept detailed records of every modification and repair. Those records existed. They were stored in the station's database. But they were organized using human filing systems, written in human technical language, and referenced human maintenance procedures. The aliens trying to understand them felt like they were reading a foreign language, which technically they were. Vice Chancellor Thren had been promoted after High Chancellor Mordax suffered what the doctors called a nervous breakdown. Mordax now spent his days in his quarters, refusing to see anyone. The responsibility of managing the crisis fell to Thren. Thren stood in the empty council chamber one last time before the evacuation. The grand circular room where 47 species had gathered was dark now, lit only by emergency lights. The seats where humans had sat remained empty. They seemed to mock him. The economic situation was even worse than the infrastructure problems. It turned out that human financial analysts had been managing the entire galactic economy. They calculated exchange rates between 47 different species currencies. They managed the council credit system. They tracked trade flows and predicted market trends. They did this so smoothly that no one realized how complex it was. Without them, the economy collapsed in slow motion. Currency values became chaotic. One day, a Vrelian credit was worth 3 Torian marks. The next day, it was worth 7. No one could agree on fair prices. Trade between species slowed, then stopped. Merchants refused to accept foreign currency. Colonies began using barter systems like ancient civilizations. Merchant Guild leader Oxmar came to Thren's office. He was a large being with 6 arms, and all 6 arms were gesturing frantically. Vice Chancellor, my guild is collapsing. We cannot operate without a stable economy. Half my members have already gone out of business. The other half are about to. Thren rubbed his eyes tiredly. I know, we are working on it. Working on it how? We need experts. We need people who understand these systems. We are training people, Thren said. Training takes years. We need solutions now. Thren had no answer. Oxmar left, slamming the door. The agricultural crisis was perhaps the most visible disaster. Youngsuk Beck had been the lead human agricultural specialist. She had led teams that adapted earth crops to alien environments. They had developed new farming techniques. They had managed soil composition and dealt with alien pests and diseases. Their work had fed billions. Youngsuk was gone now. Her teams were gone. The farms they had set up continued operating for a while, but then problems started. On Colony 12, the wheat harvest failed. The wheat had been modified by humans to grow in that planet's soil, but the modification required specific fertilizers and pest control. Without human agricultural experts, the colonists didn't know what to do. The wheat died. On Station 8, the hydroponics gardens that supplied fresh food stopped producing. The garden systems were complex and delicate. They needed constant monitoring and adjustment. The humans who had maintained them left detailed instructions, but the instructions assumed knowledge that the remaining workers didn't have. Food shortages spread. Prices increased. Riots broke out on 3 worlds. Thren authorized emergency food shipments from worlds that still had supplies, but the distribution networks that would have delivered that food efficiently were all human-designed and human-operated. Food sat in warehouses while people went hungry, not because there wasn't enough food, but because no one knew how to get it where it needed to go. Species began blaming each other. Old prejudices returned. The Virax accused the Torians of hoarding supplies. The Torians accused the Benatar of sabotaging trade routes. The Benatar claimed the Krell were behind the pirate attacks. Councillor Vexthar, who had been so proud and dismissive of humans, found himself blamed for everything. Other councillors pointed fingers at him. He had been the one who gave that speech calling humans useful tools. He had been the loudest voice against human equality. His own species recalled him in disgrace. Before he left, he had one final meeting with Thren. I was wrong. Vexthar said quietly. It was the first time Thren had ever heard him speak without arrogance. I thought they were workers. I didn't understand that they were the foundation holding everything together. Thren nodded. We all were wrong. We took them for granted. We saw them doing jobs and never asked why those jobs mattered. Can we fix this? Vexthar asked. I don't know, Thren admitted. One day, a young assistant brought Thren something interesting, a data archive that had been left by the humans. It contained petabytes of information. Training materials, technical documentation, educational resources, everything someone would need to understand and maintain all the systems humans had built. This is perfect, the assistant said excitedly. We can use this to train our people. Thren opened one of the files at random. It was a maintenance manual for quantum communication relays, 2,000 pages, full of equations, diagrams, and technical terms. He recognized maybe one word in 10. How long would it take to translate and understand all of this? Thren asked. The assistant checked the data archive size. At current translation speeds? Probably 40 to 50 years, if we dedicated all our resources to it. Thren closed the file. And we need these solutions now, not in 50 years. The assistant nodded sadly. Yes, Vice-Chancellor. The worst part, Thren realized, was that the humans had offered to teach all of this. They had offered training programs. They had tried to share their knowledge freely. The council had refused, thinking they didn't need it. Pride had seemed more important than preparation. Now they had all the information they needed and no way to use it. The galaxy that had flourished for thousands of years was falling apart in months. And there was nothing Thren could do to stop it. 6 months had passed since the humans left. The situation was now officially called a crisis. Some people were calling it a collapse. 2 species had gone to war. The conflict started as an argument over mining rights on an asteroid. Before humans left, they would have mediated the dispute. They had done this hundreds of times so smoothly that most species never realized how many wars had been prevented. Without human mediators, the argument escalated. Words became threats. Threats became actions. Ships were sent. Shots were fired. Now hundreds were dead, and both sides demanded that the council choose a side. The council could not choose a side. If they did, other species would take offense. The delicate balance of galactic politics that humans had maintained was gone. Everything was falling apart. Vice-Chancellor Thren called an emergency meeting. Only half the counselors showed up. The others were dealing with crises on their own worlds. We must try again to contact humanity, Thren said. We have no other options. Commander Vorex, a military leader from the Krell species, stood up. I have a different suggestion. We take military action. We force them to return. The room went silent. Everyone stared at Vorex. You want to attack human space? Thren asked carefully. Not attack. Apply pressure. Show them that we are serious. They will negotiate once they understand we will not simply accept their absence. Thren looked around the room. Some counselors looked interested. Others looked horrified. Thren himself felt tired. Commander, do you know what humanity's military capabilities are? We have intelligence reports, Vorex said confidently. Those reports are from before humans left, Thren said quietly. And they were always incomplete. Humans designed and built most of our military technology. Do you really think they didn't keep the best technology for themselves? That made Vorex pause. Thren continued. Our ships are breaking down. Our weapon systems are malfunctioning. Half our fleet cannot even leave dock because maintenance crews are gone. And you want to attack a species that has all their systems working perfectly? A species that clearly planned for this possibility? Vorex sat down. No one else suggested military action. Instead, they tried diplomacy one more time. Special Envoy Haya Jinsong was chosen to lead a new delegation. She was known for her skills in difficult negotiations. If anyone could convince humans to help, it would be her. Song traveled to the border of human space with 3 other diplomats. They carried formal requests for humanitarian assistance. They had authorization to offer almost anything humans wanted. They were desperate. Admiral Park met them at the border station again. This time Ambassador Kim was also there. He was older now, his hair completely gray, but his eyes were still sharp. Song presented their case. She spoke of the suffering, the plague that was still spreading, the food shortages, the economic collapse, the war. She was eloquent and emotional. She appealed to human compassion. Kim listened without interrupting. When Song finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke. Everything you describe is terrible. I feel genuine sympathy for those who are suffering. But I need to ask you something, Envoy Song. Why is this humanity's responsibility? Song looked confused. Because you can help. You have the knowledge and skills. We had that knowledge and those skills 6 months ago, Kim said. We offered to share them. We offered training programs. We asked to be partners in solving galactic problems. The Council said no. The Council said we were too young, too inexperienced, not worthy of equal standing. So we accepted that judgment and withdrew. That was a mistake, Song said quickly. The Council was wrong. We admit that. Yes, it was a mistake, Kim agreed. But it was your mistake, not ours. For 200 years, humans worked for the Council. We built systems. We maintained infrastructure. We saved lives. We did all of this while being told we were inferior. And we did it anyway because we believed in the idea of the Council. We believed in cooperation between species, he paused. But you did not believe in cooperation. You believed in hierarchy. You wanted workers, not partners. Now you don't have either. People are dying, Song said, her voice breaking. I know, Kim said softly. And that is tragic. But people die every day in the galaxy. Humans cannot save everyone. We tried to build systems that would save people. Those systems exist. The knowledge to operate them exists. We left it all behind. If the Council cannot use that knowledge, that is not our failing. It is yours, Admiral Park spoke then. Humanity is not refusing to help out of cruelty or revenge. We are simply refusing to return to a relationship where we do all the work and receive no respect. If you want our help, you must understand something first. We are not your servants. We are not your tools. We are equals or we are nothing. Song tried different arguments. She offered political concessions. She offered economic benefits. She even offered to have the Council formally apologize. Kim listened to it all. Then he shook his head. You are offering these things now because you are desperate, not because you truly believe humans deserve them. When the crisis passes, when you rebuild, you will forget these promises. You will go back to seeing us as useful workers. We know this pattern. We will not repeat it. The meeting ended with nothing accomplished. Song returned to Council space in defeat. But something unexpected happened next. Alien children who had been studying at human universities started sending messages to their human friends. These were personal messages, not official. They asked for help for their families and communities. They shared stories of suffering. Human civilians were moved by these messages. They wanted to help. Volunteer organizations formed. Human doctors, engineers, and teachers offered to go to alien worlds as individuals, not as Council employees. The human government allowed this, but with conditions. No aid would flow through Council channels. Humans would work directly with communities and individuals. They would not support the Council structure that had rejected them. Some alien worlds accepted this help gratefully. Others, too proud to accept aid on such terms, refused. Those worlds continued to suffer. Vice-Chancellor Thren watched all of this unfold. He finally understood the full scope of what had happened. Humans had been the backbone of galactic civilization, not because they were told to be, but because they chose to be. When they were told they were not valued, they simply stopped choosing to help. It was not complicated. It was not revenge. It was just cause and effect. The Council had broken something precious, and now they were learning that some things once broken cannot be easily fixed. 1 year after the humans withdrew, Vice-Chancellor Thren called an emergency session. The Council chamber was empty and dark, so they met in a smaller facility. Only 32 of the 47 species sent representatives. The others were too busy dealing with problems at home. The room felt different from the grand chamber. It was humble, plain. The aliens who gathered there looked tired and worried. The arrogance that had filled the old chamber was gone. Thren stood at the front of the room. He looked older too. The past year had been hard on everyone. We need to talk about the future of this council, Thren began, if there is to be a future at all. In the back of the room, a young alien named Kara Esh stood up. She was from the Taurian species, barely 25 years old. She had studied engineering at a human university. When humans left, she had come home to help her people. May I speak, Vice-Chancellor? She asked. Thren nodded. Please. Kara Esh walked to the center. She looked at the older counselors, many of whom had dismissed humans for years. She was nervous but determined. I want to share something with you. When I was studying with humans, I asked one of my professors why humans work so hard for the council. They got so little recognition and respect. Why did they keep doing it? She paused. My professor said that humans believed in the idea of the council. They believed that different species could work together as equals. They wanted to build that future, even if it meant being undervalued in the present. But we did not value them, Karaesh continued. We used them. We took their work and gave nothing back. And when they asked to be treated as equals, we laughed at them. We told them they were too young, too inexperienced, not good enough. Some of the older counselors looked uncomfortable. Karaesh pressed on. I have reviewed the records. For 50 years, humans requested equal representation. 50 years. Every request was denied. We told them to be patient. We told them to prove themselves. But no amount of proof was ever enough, because we did not want equals. We wanted servants. Her voice grew stronger, and now we are paying the price for our arrogance. Our infrastructure is failing. Our economy has collapsed. Our people are suffering. This is not humanity's fault. This is our fault. We built a civilization on the backs of people we refuse to respect. Thren nodded slowly. You are correct. A formal investigation has confirmed what you say. I have the report here. He displayed the findings for everyone to see. The numbers were devastating. Humans had contributed 68% of council technology, 54% of scientific research, 71% of humanitarian aid, 43% of economic management. They had done all this while receiving less than 8% of council funding and representation. They were subsidizing our entire civilization, Thren said. We took that subsidy as our right. We never thanked them. We never treated them as partners. We treated them as tools. The room was silent. Many counselors could not meet Thren's eyes. This council was supposed to represent the best of galactic civilization, Thren continued. But we became corrupt, lazy, arrogant. We forgot that civilization is built by work, not by status. Humans showed us that truth by leaving. Now we must decide. Do we learn from this lesson? Or do we continue as we were? Karaesh spoke again. We cannot continue as we were. The old council is dead. It died when humans walked away. If we want to rebuild, we must build something different, something better. Other young aliens stood up to support her. They formed a coalition. Many of them had studied with humans or worked alongside them. They had seen how humans operated. They had learned different values. Together, they drafted a new proposal, a new council charter. This charter would eliminate the hierarchy of elder and younger species. It would give all species equal representation based on contribution, not age. It would require transparent accounting of all work done. It would mandate respect for all members. Most importantly, it would formally invite humanity to return as full and equal partners. Not as workers, not as servants, as equals. The vote took place 3 days later. The new charter passed unanimously. Even the oldest, most traditional counselors voted for it. They had no choice. The old way had failed completely. With the charter passed, the council drafted a formal apology to humanity. They acknowledged their mistakes. They recognized human contributions. They offered reparations. They basically dissolved their old structure and promised to rebuild based on true equality. But one question remained. The most important question. Would humanity accept? Thren volunteered to lead the delegation personally. He took the new charter, the formal apology, and the offer of reparations. He traveled to Earth itself, to the human capital. Ambassador Kim met him in a simple conference room in Geneva. Kim was now 59 years old. His hair was completely gray. He looked at Thren with calm, patient eyes. Thren presented everything. He spoke honestly about what had happened. He did not make excuses. He did not minimize the council's failures. He simply told the truth. When he finished, Kim was quiet for a long time. Then he spoke. Thank you for your honesty, Vice Chancellor. I appreciate the apology. I appreciate the new charter. These are good steps, but I cannot give you an answer today. This decision must be made by all of humanity, not by one person. I understand, Thren said. How long will you need? We will convene a global assembly. We will debate. We will vote. This will take time. Perhaps months, Thren nodded. We will wait. We have learned patience finally. Kim smiled slightly. It was the first real smile Thren had seen from him. That is good. Patience is a valuable skill. We will send our answer when we are ready. Thren returned to Council space. The waiting began. All across the galaxy, species wondered what humanity would decide. Would the humans return? Would they forgive the Council's mistakes? Or would they choose a different path? No one knew. For the first time in a long time, the Council had to wait for someone else's decision. It was a strange feeling, an uncomfortable feeling, but it was also fair. And maybe that was the most important lesson of all. 4 months after Thren's visit to Earth, Ambassador Kim returned to Council space. This time he came with President Myung-shin, the leader of United Earth. They brought with them Admiral Park and Dr. Lee. Their ship arrived at the new Council facility without ceremony. Thren welcomed them personally. He led them to a conference room. It was not fancy. The Council could no longer afford fancy. The room was clean and functional. Nothing more. All the counselors who could travel were present. They sat quietly, waiting. There was none of the noise and chaos that had filled the old chamber. Everyone understood the importance of this moment. President Shin stood to speak. She was in her early 50s with sharp eyes and a calm manner. She looked at the assembled aliens with neither anger nor warmth. Just neutral professionalism. "We have completed our global assembly," she began. "Every nation on Earth participated. Every human had a voice in this decision. The debate was long and passionate. We had to decide not just whether to return to the Council, but who we want to be as a species." She paused. "Some of us argued that we should return, that the Council has learned its lesson, that we could help rebuild galactic civilization as true partners." Admiral Park stood next. Others argued that we should not return, that the Council would eventually fall back into old patterns, that we should maintain our independence and build our own future. Dr. Lee spoke third. Both sides made valid points. This was not an easy decision, but we have reached a conclusion. The room was completely silent. Every alien held their breath. Kim stood and faced the Council. "Humanity will not rejoin the Galactic Council." Some aliens gasped. Others looked down. Thren closed his eyes briefly, then opened them again and nodded. Kim continued. "We will not rejoin because the Council, as an institution, broke our trust. It does not matter that you have changed the charter. It does not matter that you apologized. What matters is that for 50 years we asked to be treated as equals. For 50 years you said no. You only changed your minds when you needed us. That is not partnership," President Shin added. "That is desperation. We cannot build a relationship based on your desperation. It would not be healthy for you or for us." "However," Kim said, and everyone looked up with hope, "humanity is not abandoning the galaxy. We have a different proposal." He placed a document on the table. "We propose a new model. Not one council, but many independent relationships. Humanity will engage in bilateral partnerships with any species that wishes to work with us as equals. We will share technology. We will trade. We will help each other. But these relationships will be between equals, not between masters and servants. Any species that wants to learn from us, we will teach," Dr. Lee said. "Any species that wants to trade with us, we will trade. Any species that asks for help, we will help. But only if they respect us. Only if they treat us as partners." "The old council tried to unite the galaxy under one structure," Admiral Park said. "That structure failed because it was built on hierarchy. We propose something different. A network of partnerships, each species maintaining its independence while choosing to cooperate." Thren stood slowly. "And the current council? What becomes of us?" Kim looked at him steadily. "That is for you to decide. If the council can rebuild itself on true principles of equality, it may survive. If not, it will fade away. That is not our concern anymore. We are not responsible for saving institutions that do not value us." "What you are saying," said Councillor Karesh, "is that each species must stand on its own, and then choose to work together freely." "Yes," President Shin said. "Exactly." The discussion continued for hours. Some species immediately accepted humanity's proposal. Others needed time to think. A few, still clinging to pride, rejected the offer entirely. By the end of the day, 17 species had signed partnership agreements with humanity. More would follow in the coming weeks, but some would not. Those species would have to find their own way forward. The Galactic Council did not officially dissolve, but it was no longer the center of galactic politics. It became one voice among many, not the voice of authority. Some species stayed members, Others left. The council continued, but it was smaller, humbler, and very different from what it had been. 3 months later, Ambassador Kim stood on an observation deck in Geneva. He watched alien ships come and go from Earth orbit. Some brought students to human universities, some brought trade goods, some brought requests for technical assistance. Each ship was treated with respect. Each species was treated as an equal. This was the new way. Admiral Park joined him at the window. "Do you think we made the right choice?" she asked. Kim thought about it. "I think we made the only choice that respected both them and us." They needed to learn that civilization cannot be built on the backs of people you do not value. Now they are learning. "Some of them will fail," Park said. "Yes," Kim agreed, "but that is their right. We cannot save everyone. We cannot force growth. We can only offer partnership to those who want it." Dr. Lee approached them. She had been working with alien scientists who had come to learn. "The Torians are making incredible progress. So are the Benatar. They are genuinely trying to understand, not just looking for quick fixes." Kim smiled. "That is good. Those are the species that will thrive, the ones who are willing to learn and work as equals." "And the others?" Park asked. Kim shrugged. "They will either change or they will not. That is not our responsibility. We tried to help them for 200 years. We gave them everything we had. They told us it was not enough. Now they know the truth." Far across the galaxy, young aliens like Kara Esh were working to rebuild their worlds. They studied human methods and philosophy. They learned that respect must be earned through actions, not demanded through status. They built new systems based on equality and cooperation. These young leaders began to call the crisis the human teaching, not because humans had taught with words, but because they had taught with action. They had shown what happens when a society takes its most valuable contributors for granted. It was a lesson the galaxy would remember for generations. Back in Geneva, Kim watched the sun set. Admiral Park stood beside him. "They called us useful tools," Park said quietly. Kim nodded. "Yes, they did. And we showed them what happens when the tools walk away." "We did." Kim paused. "But more importantly, we showed them what partnership really means. Not hierarchy, not service, partnership. Equals working together because they choose to, not because they have to." Admiral Park smiled. "Do you think they learned?" "Some have, some will. Some never will." Kim turned from the window. "But that is their choice now. We are not responsible for fixing what they broke. We are only responsible for building what we believe in." He walked toward the door, then stopped and looked back at the stars. And maybe that was the real lesson all along. You cannot build a civilization by forcing others to carry it. You can only build it by working together as equals, each one contributing what they can. The stars shone through the window, silent and eternal. Somewhere among them, species were learning, growing, changing. The galaxy would never be the same, and that perhaps was exactly how it should be.